we're going to talk about starting up a business, some of the first things that you do. And I have this aversion to using QuickBooks, so I'm going to start off doing everything manually.
Often people look at the taxes for filing taxes purposes, but we should be looking at our books to help us in business.
Right. I don't know how other museums do it. I just know how I want to do it.
Yeah. Well, I feel like doing that is so helpful for planning, because then you have a target on which you're going to build your next museum and have budgeted for it. It was so hard for me to hire people for help because I knew as soon as I distanced myself from it, will I do it? Will I go and look? Will I understand it as well as when you're in it every day?
Yeah.
Like there's a big difference.
Right now I'm doing everything.
I feel like that's how you get a good handle on how things work. And then you have to, I don't know. I feel like that's the best way to start a business is to do it and then hire people for the things that.
Thinking about numbers as the bucket, right? So Square will export, Contacts exports, the bank account will export, so I can export all the files from all the other programs and import them into numbers.
Right.
And then I did go ahead and sit down and built my balance sheets and all the things, and I built all the pivot tables, so I'm ready.
Ooh, I want you to show me those, because if I can see how it works, because I've tried to tinker.
Numbers isn't corporate software, and it's nothing like Excel, right? Excel is far more tools and powers and different kinds of things.
Right.
The question is, can you do everything that you want to in it?
Right.
So here's my ledger, right? So I've got categories,
Yep.
and the category is a drop down. So I created, so on the income statement are the categories. So every transaction has to fall into one of the categories that then shows up on the income statement. So the income statement is looking for the categories on the other sheet. So it's a pretty straightforward formula.
Yeah.
See, there's a lot of zeros still in my spreadsheet, and there's all these placeholders. This one, the balance sheet is quarterly, so this one will have to get reconciled. It's not going to just auto-populate. I'm going to have to, at the end of the quarter, go through, populate it, and then start the new column. Let's sit down and talk about the future. So I'm not selling individual units. Like, I'm not making a product, so I don't actually have like a cost of goods. These particular categories that I've chosen are common, but I'm thinking it's probably time to sit down with the tax accountant and make sure that I'm not missing anything. I've got depreciation and amortization in there, which I'm not going to use for a while, but once the exhibits exist, they will be valued. And then how do I record, okay, it cost us this much to build the thing, but it would cost us this much to replace it. Therefore, how do I value it, right? Like, it's not like I'm going to go sell the exhibit, so I can't get like an open market valuation on the exhibit. But once I then assign a value to it, how do I depreciate it? I mean, for these exhibits that I'm building, I'm expecting them to have a 5-year lifespan, and I'm expecting to, depreciate the value of the equipment over that course of the 5 years until really it goes to zero.
I give our accountant all of our expenses categorized, and then she figures it out from there. I think it's better to start with what makes sense to you, and then if anything, the accountant will ask you about it and put it in the right bucket.
Is that a terrible thing to say? My only asset is cash.
It would be nice to be able to track the expenses for a particular exhibit so that we can say this whole exhibit, when we don't have a lot of transactions, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, so I'm going to muddle along like this for a while. I might get through the whole year.
Yeah.
And then maybe next year we'll.
Mahalo, aloha, shaka.